Huzzah! Perfect. Let's start this over. Welcome to What the Decks, where over the course of a lunch hour, we take the idea for a deck build from Lunchbox to Deckbox. I'm your host, Skylar, and today we'll be tackling Zondara's Gravebreakers plus Beastbound Assault. It is indeed alive. Both the resurrected shenanigans as well as the audio stream. Perfect. Okay, so before we can kick off today's build with Zondara's Gravebreakers, first, as tradition, we need to tackle a field report. So today is week 8, by the way, of the stream, which just feels really good. That feels like 2 months. So 2 months kicking, and I'm really still enjoying this project. So forward momentum. Here we go. So week 6 was the last week A that we had. Now that we've split into a week A and a week B cadence. And so on week 6 was when we tackled the Skacewild Hunt plus Rime-Locked Relics build. So that's what I get to report on today, and I'm most enthusiastic to kick today's episode off with this field report because this was my first ever warband. So this is the warband I learned the game with. This is the warband I spent over a year with initially. It's the only warband I've ever painted myself. And so this is an extremely special warband to me, and to see it have this new life breathed into it through Rime-Locked Relics just feels so good. So without further ado, how did the Chillblain hunt do? And I am super excited to tell you that I played 4 games with them since I last saw you, and I took 4 W's. So at least initially, there's some momentum here. There's at least something here, and I think with there are going to be some different matchups that I struggle with, and we're going to kind of talk about that. I think I kind of got lucky with the matchups that I was up against during testing. So I played against Plague Pack with Rime-Locked Relics, took that one 16-10. Against Claw Pack with Breakneck Slaughter, took that one 15-13, so that one was really close. Exile Dead with Malevolent Masks, took that one 23-10. And lastly, Kagra's Ravagers, also with Malevolent Masks, and I took that one 17-8. So the reason I kind of put forward like a matchup caveat is I do think that this deck could run into problems against elite warbands or model counts of 4 or 3, where it's much harder to tackle a fighter. A lot is really relying on that first kill to get the momentum of this deck going. My only surge that doesn't require Seed Glory or a kill is my spellcasting one, Soul Binding. Right, so successfully cast a spell. So I think if I was up against a elite matchup, I might actually mulligan to try to get a spell going. Even like the spells are great. Like I'd be happy to have them, but I think I really need one of these 2 cards to come up in that matchup to really help me out alongside Soul Binding, which got me thinking that there's probably an adjustment I would make. It's actually why I played Kagra's as that 4th and final one. Alex is always testing out different things with Kagra, so this was Malevolent Masks test for him, and I asked hey, do you want to play a game? I could really use a match into, a 4 or a 3 fighter warband. And he's like, well, I'll throw Kagra's at you. And I was like, okay, perfect. So more testing to be done there, as well as more testing against like hold proper. So like I played against Plague Pack, which wanted to do a little bit of holding, but with Rime-Locked Relics, they need to get the ball rolling, and they can. Like they've got really, really great surges, but they need to find their defense upgrades and survive some hits. And I was playing a hyper accurate warband, so I was able to drive them off of positions or kill them. Claw Pack, that was not so like a matchup where holding objectives was something they were doing outside of denial. Actually, this was one of the like toughest games in the pairing, because not only were they on a mission straight from the get-go to take down my leader. Thankfully, I won boards on this one, so I was able to do like a max offset and make it harder for them to get to my leader. But while they were working to get to my leader, they would take stops to hold objectives and hopefully bring some denial into their side, since they couldn't complete their game plan in that first round because of that max offset. So that was really clever of the Claw Pack player. That was actually Brenna. So shout out Brenna. Brian, if you're watching, please pass that on. And then Exiled Dead, 23-10, that was pretty much just a bloodbath in my favor, right? Like with these hyper accurate fighters, I was able to really farm the zombies and get some pretty mean scything attacks off as well. That's not to say that that pairing is bad or that game would go that way every time. I actually think there's a lot to Malevolent Masks with Exiled Dead, and I was lucky that they weren't able to get that momentum going, and I was able to kind of like press down on that momentum. I killed Diantelos as fast as I could. I was pressuring the other one, Markov, as much as I could, as quickly as I could. So yeah, I think against Hold, it's gonna be like Hold proper. There's definitely play here, because a lot of the time when you're playing Hold proper, you don't have the accuracy that something like Chillblain Hunt can bring in. And I think that'll be a really interesting puzzle that I'm looking forward to exploring more. And I'm really curious as to what like elite matchups are going to look like for me. I think I'm going to struggle. And I have a swap ready to consider for that. So I think I should get rid of Run Through. This is my leader, takes a fighter out of action, and try out Icy Grip. So Icy Grip is one, let's pull this up. So score this immediately after an opponent's activation step, which is what drove me away from this originally. If your warband holds 2 or more objectives, and 1 or more of those objectives are in no one's and or enemy territory. So I think it's probably worthwhile in round 1 to consider this for my elite matchups. And like later, this can become pretty easy. Like if I ever get Seed Glory, Gelid Cyclone can actually teleport me to that location. And can teleport me immediately after my opponent's activation if I time it right, which is something I thought of while experimenting with this, and not something I thought of when we were doing the build with Gelid Cyclone here. So that's a cool combo. I think I'm going to try swapping Run Through out for Icy Grip. I don't hate it. I just am trying to give myself a little more in the world of options for when I'm up against an elite, or maybe even just one more surge that doesn't rely on kill glory. So yeah, the hardest objectives would be Run Through, right? This is traditionally like difficult, just because you have to make sure that you haven't activated your leader before you surge into this in a round, and then past something like that, you obviously need to make sure your leader is alive. For the same reason, soul binding can be hard, if your wizard dies before you get a chance to see the surge. So these are 2 things that just are run out of one fighter, so they kind of come with some inherent difficulties. But I saw some talk about Steaming Corpses being hard. So Dan, one of my locals, he actually tried this deck out as well, and did not see, at least initially, the same success that I was seeing with it. And this was an objective that he thought was particularly difficult, and I wanted to talk about today during the field report. Yes, it can be like challenging. However, I haven't not scored it yet. I've just had to make like considerations to help myself score it. I have not gotten lucky enough yet with Frozen Solid. This card is supposed to work 66% of the time, but that is not the average I'm batting on it so far. I think I've successfully cast it twice, and in both cases I was not able to like cast, right? I was not able to like successfully capitalize on it. So the idea is that you are able to lock down one of their key upgrades, and then hopefully take that fighter out as well and contribute to Steaming Corpses. If you don't have a fighter that that is already dead on your side, that has a face down Rime Locked upgrade. But what I was able to do with Steaming Corpses is, once I realized in my first game that it can be a little difficult, that it just really requires like good timing and, you know, losing a fighter a lot of the time. I was like, well, the game can just get this for me. So I started running boards with at least one lethal on them. And then if I really needed the glory from Steaming Corpses, if it's the card that was up in my hand, I could actually just run Legane through a lethal, even with like Fleet of Foot in one game. He just ran through a lethal while he was upgraded, and then they got one glory, don't get me wrong, but then I got two with Steaming Corpses. So, and the trade was worth it at the time. Easy, Skylar, just roll better. I know, what am I doing? So those would be the hardest objectives in this deck. I think before we move on from the field report, I'll just talk quickly about some of the best cards in here that were a lot of fun. So like Layfrost Conduit, easily the best card in this deck. It's so good. If you can give it to, I mean, anybody, really. Just the fact that -1 defense dice to a minimum of 1 when you're attacking with this means it can go on to Scathe for his scything attack, which is nuts. What I would prefer to use it for is I'd prefer to give it to Althane, because she's going to be stationary on an objective anyways, and then she's supporting from that objective, even maybe then that scything attack. So that's really great. If you do end up like losing Althane and you want to give it directly to somebody like Scathe, then you can combo it with Raw Power. Then you've just made Raw Power easier to land, and again on scything attacks. That's crazy. The fact that this warband has Althane and Scathe able to launch range 3 attacks from an objective 2 is really what brings like the potential together for this deck. I did get the combo that I hoped for, where I got Frostgale on Althane, and I wasn't at first confident if that would feel too redundant on her, but being able to crank her range up to 4 and give her fast shot is really, really great. Like, no questions asked, especially when you're rolling 3 dice on that one. Chillblain Armor, the namesake of the deck, really great with your fighters, since like Althane and Shiak are able to reroll their defense dice once they're inspired. And we kind of already talked about like the fact that Gelid Cyclone, like timed right, can just be a scoring engine for you. You know, you can time it going into end phase, where it's the final activation, whether that's yours or your opponent's, where this flips over and gets you onto an objective. That could be used for something like Icy Grip. I really want to experiment with that. So yeah, overall, really, really pleased with this. One thing we talked about was, would Soul Binding be well supported enough with Binding Wind, Might of Kurnoth, and Vicious Darts? And I'm happy to say yes. These 3 pieces do support that spell, or that surge, quite well. And Vicious Darts was actually pretty crucial in a couple of games. So yeah. The only other card I would mention real quick is Sudden Thaw. This card did near nothing for me. So as I test more, because this is being a warband I love so much, this will be in my pack. Like, until Rime Locked Relics rotates out, the Chillblain Hunt will be in my pack every week. So I'm excited to play this a bunch more. And this is the first card kind of like on watch from me, is I just don't think it does enough in here. But maybe as I start fighting more Rime Worm Bite decks, I'll be happy to have the domain. But right now, I think this could be better. So, all right, that is our field report for Chillblain Hunt. So let's move on to the main event. Let's move on to Zondara's Gravebreakers and Beastbound Assault. And with this particular pairing, I want to do a shout out to Chop, who I know is watching right now. Chop is the first one to actually run this pairing by me, and he blew my mind pretty quickly. I think he was like, it's a pretty like natural pairing for them. Like, people are he must have been listening to people talk about how Beastbound Assault would pair really well with them. And you know what? if we talk about it on our What the Hex episode, I have such a backlog right now. It's actually one of the ones I haven't gotten to. I've been trying to listen back to the episodes I haven't been on. So maybe my co-hosts also mention this during our episode. But it is still on the to listen list. Actually, hopefully after today's episode here, I plan to put that one in my ears to see if I missed anything. But there's going to be a pretty cool card combo in here that I just couldn't stop thinking about. It was like, I need to give this build a try. So let's go grab Zondara's Gravebreakers. Let's clear our deck editor. And let's take an idea from Lunchbox to Deckbox. So let's go ahead and just load a card straight in so we can get access to their fighter cards. For those unfamiliar with this warband, they've got quite a bit to cover here. So we're going to try to cover it briefly, but they play the game so differently than any other warband. It's like they're playing a mini game over on their side. So Zondara and Chillblain are kind of your main fighters. They're the love story. So for those unfamiliar, Chillblain is trapped in his current form, and so hence the name Lost Chillblain. And Zondara is trying to figure out what she can do to bring her lover back to form, right? So these three, like these undeads, Pick, Crack, Tomb, and Toil, are kind of her pet projects, so that she has something to try these dark magics out on until she gets it right, and then can do so to Chillblain. And you can tell it's also been taking its toll on her, those dark magics. So super cool warband. We see right out of the gate we have 4 beasts, 1, 2, 3, 4, from Chillblain down to Toil. So right away there's some natural synergy, as Chop was mentioning, with Beastbound Assault here, because the only fighter outside of the Beastbound Assault equation naturally is Zondara. What do I mean by Beastbound Assault equation? Right, this is a deck most people have either written off or haven't seen. So almost all the cards in Beastbound Assault refer to an effect or score off of either fighters that are beasts, minions, companions, or denizens. Denizen is not something a fighter in the game comes by naturally. It is something that you have to have an upgrade for. So it's like, has a denizen upgrade, then they're considered to meet that condition here. So she's going to be the only one we need to really worry about getting a denizen upgrade down on when we're building this pairing. The rest are already helping us out with this pairing. So, but as beasts, we won't be doing holding. That's not something they're going to be able to do, but they can stand on objectives, and Beastbound Assault knows the difference. So Zondara over here and Chillblain share a very similar Inspire mechanic. They need 2 or more upgrades, and the other one inspires. So she's watching Chillblain's upgrade count, Chillblain's watching hers, and they also have these cool abilities. So we're going to start with Tragedy. In the power step in play, in place of playing a power card, you can discard an objective card that names 1 or more friendly fighters that are out of action and draw an objective card. So this is like salvaging, as we're familiar, but it's not looking for like a restricted box on the bottom. It's looking at your objectives, and it's looking for if any of these fighters are named, we're going to be able to salvage objectives, because again, it focuses so much on Zondara and Chillblain. And then if Chillblain dies, we actually lose this ability. So it's mostly looking at Zondara, like if Chillblain has lost Zondara, if she was unsuccessful in her pursuit to bring them back together. And then Stolen Knowledge over here, we have Spell Reaction, Focus. Use this after this fighter's activation. If cast, pick 1, heal 1 a friendly fighter within 3 hexes, or deal 1 damage to an enemy fighter within 1 hex. So the reason we're going over all of these is because, again, they play the game so differently. These are things that we're going to have to keep in mind the whole time we're working through this build. And when they inspire, their abilities don't change, but their stats become quite fantastic, right? She gets up to 2 shields. She stays on 3 move, so she's really slow. and her attack becomes a little more accurate. Over here, this Grievous 1 rolls into 3 damage. So we've got 3 damage on either side, but we need Grievous on this side. And move speed goes up to 5. Then over here, Pick, Crack, Tomb, and Toil, they all share Grave Break, and Grave Break includes Exhume and Unearth. So essentially you need to actually see all 3 of their cards to read through the ability list that they have available to them. So Grave Break is what starts it all. So we're going to start with Toil. If you react with Toil or Crack, Tomb, or Pick, after this fighter's activation, other than an activation that included a super action, place an objective token from this fighter's hex into an adjacent hex. So specifically objective tokens, and you're unearthing them. That's a different keyword. You're grave breaking, right? You're moving this objective over. You're sliding the top off, and then looking at what's underneath. So then you may unearth. So we'll look at Pick, or you may exhume, and that's on Crack Tomb. So unearth. Search your power deck for a Zondara Gravebreakers upgrade. Reveal that card and add it to your hand. Then shuffle any remaining cards in your power deck. So all of the upgrades in here, in their deck, all 10 that come with them, essentially are retrievable through this unearth, which is something we're going to be wanting to consider. And specifically a card called Salvaged Intelligence. You'll see it when we get there. And then exhume. If your leader is surviving, place up to 1 friendly minion that is out of action in another hex adjacent to this fighter and give that fighter a raise token. So you need your leader still alive to get access to exhume, because she's the one that's raising them. She's the one that has the magics. And as long as she's alive, you can exhume from one of these fighters to bring another one back. So, all right. They are very weak. So they start on 1 block and have 2 health. They've got very, very low quality attack profiles. We're talking 1 sword, the worst in the game, and 2 damage on the reward there. And then in the other cases, we're on 2 swords looking for 1 damage. They're not meant to be really killing people with these attacks. They're meant to be playing their mini game. And then when they inspire, their attacks do get a little more accurate and a little better. And then their wounds go up to 3. So, and they inspire when they're given a raise counter, kind of like the Sepulchre guard. So now that we've got a good read on the fighters, we'll be returning to them, I'm sure, as we build. But let's jump into actually an upgrade first to show you one of the natural things I was super excited about that led me here today. And this is what Chop blew my mind with. So it is called, actually I'm forgetting the name at the moment, so we're just going to scroll until we find it. Countless Familiars, there it is. So this is kind of like this deck's equivalent of a card like Walking Wall in Fearsome Fortress, where this card does very little in most cases, but helps the internal game plan immensely. And here it goes further. So Countless Familiars. When you give this to a fighter, give that fighter and 1 other friendly fighter within 2 hexes 1 familiar counter. While a fighter has 1 or more familiar counters, that fighter is considered to have 1 additional Denizen upgrade. So, once you have your first Seed Glory, if you give Countless Familiars to either Forlane or Zondara, they will then receive a familiar counter that will count as a second upgrade for them. So off of 1 Seed Glory, you can inspire your choice of Forlane or Zondara, and then if the other is within 2 hexes of them, you can also give the other one another upgrade, through a familiar counter here, and get them halfway to inspiring the other fighter in 1 card. So this counts as 3 out of 4 of the upgrades you need off of 1 glory. So unfortunately, we can't go find this card with Unearth or Exhume, Unearth, because it's not a Zondara's Gravebreakers upgrade. But this is so cool. So that is going straight in. Like anytime we get this in round one, it's just going to like speed up our ability to it's gonna everything, right? It's gonna speed up our momentum because we're gonna have inspired fighters faster and all of that jazz. So before I get into like more Beastbound Assault cards that I'm familiar with, let's start diving into how we would traditionally tackle one of these with the objectives. So let's filter by glory and see what we have to work with. So no 3s out of the gate, and I can't remember if we have any that flexibly like increase as we meet conditions. So we'll find out. Life and death. Score this in an end phase if there are more surviving inspired friendly fighters than there are surviving inspired enemy fighters. So because we can resurrect, and when we do resurrect, we inspire fighters. I think this is worth exploring. I think this could be rather hard. There are warbands that can get to, like for example, if I was playing Skaith's Wild Hunt sorry, what am I doing using not the name we assigned it? If I were to play the Chillblain Hunt into this, right, that warband would have 4 fighters inspired rather quickly, where I might only then have, oh, we don't have any cards up there to grab fighters. Here we go. I might only have like at best these 2 after some Seed Glory, and maybe one of them if I've resurrected one of them. So I think it'll be kind of hard to outpace some warbands. Zarbag's Gits, for example, super popular again. And once they get 3 Glory, 8 of them are inspired. No, that's not true. So they've got 3 inspired conditions. 3 Glory, 6 of them are inspired. And then Snurk inspires kind of on his own, and so do the Squigs. So all of a sudden you're up against six inspired fighters rather quickly. So this could be difficult, matchup dependent, but I don't think like prohibitively difficult. I definitely want to see if we have enough room to test this one. So then here, because we kind of started on end phases here, let's continue with end phases. No stone unturned. Score this in an end phase if you placed 3 or more different feature tokens in the preceding action phase. So not only can we do this with Unearth, Gravebreak. Not only can we do this with Gravebreak, gotta get those terms straight. But we can also do this with a Plunder. Like if our leader or Furlane is able to get a kill, I think we can explore that. That's kind of like Gravebreak twice, maybe get a kill, maybe Gravebreak 3 times. I'm not sure if that's the answer. I don't think. But for 2 Glory, let's explore it. All right. Effortless teamwork. Score this in an end phase if there are more enemy fighters out of action than friendly fighters out of action, and each surviving friendly fighter is a beast, companion, minion, and or has 1 or more denizen upgrades. So, this is another like trial one. Having resurrection obviously helps. Having everybody already meeting the beast condition, except for Zondara, does help push this. I have a feeling we might end up cutting this card because you need to at least have killed one of them, and then you have to be like outpacing them in the number that are like currently in the grave. So hopefully resurrection would help with that. I don't remember if they have any in-house resurrection cards, so that might weigh into this equation as well. Keen Collector. Score this in an end phase if a surviving friendly leader has 3 or more denizen upgrades. I think we can explore this. So far, a lot of like okay, 2 Glory end phases, like ones that frankly are going to require some sort of support or testing to really kind of like iron out how they're going to do. Like Keen Collector, we're going to have to see how many denizen upgrades we pack in here. I don't mind giving them to Zondara. She's super key to this warband. We already looked at how cool Countless Familiars is. That gets this most of the way there on its own. But we'll have to see. So Packmasters. 3 or more friendly fighters are in enemy territory, and each of those fighters is a beast, companion, minion, and or has 1 or more denizen upgrades. I don't think enemy territory is where we're going to want to be hanging. Not only are we slow, let's see, where do we resurrect to when we're exhumed? Adjacent, another hex adjacent to this fighter. So that's not terrible. But I think a count of 3 might be too hard. I'm going to leave Packmasters out for now. We can come back to that if we're really hurting, but I think that one's going to be too tough. Just given how easily we're taken out, I think we're going to want to kind of play back a little bit, and then like make them come to us to take us down, and then when they do, we kind of collapse on them. That's at least how I'm envisioning this. Dreamer's Respite. Score this in an end phase if there is a friendly surviving Zondara and there's a friendly surviving Verlaine, so the love story. And Tragedy can help us replace this if we ever lose it. When you score this, if it's the third end phase, gain 2 additional glory points. This is going in. Absolutely. So if we're ever really nervous about not being able to score this, we can always grab it for the 1. But if we can hold on to this dream until the third end phase, that's an amazing payout. Fates Entwined. Score this in an end phase if a friendly Zondara and a friendly Verlaine are within 2 hexes of each other, or a friendly Zondara and a friendly Verlaine are out of action. So we've lost both of them, or they're next to each other, or, well, within 2, right? But next to each other enough. I don't know about this one. I like the 1 point for the first bit here. 1 point for the second bit. I think that hurts a lot. Like I'm happy for the reward, but man, Dreamer's Respite seems stapled to them. It's so good. Yeah. I think this is absolutely going to be their staple card. And that art is gorgeous. I think it's actually amongst my like top 3 like art frames from their deck. Another one is the magic from the book. It's like the powers that she doesn't realize she's messing with, where there's this like entity behind her. We'll definitely take a look at that upgrade when it comes there, or when we get to it. So Fates Entwined, we'll toss it in for now. I'm not feeling too hot on it. Fates Entwined is really good. Lots of upgrades, and Gambits help it. Okay, good to know. Reckless Effort. Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter that is not a minion has 1 or more charge tokens. If each surviving friendly fighter that is not a minion has 1 or more charge tokens. So these 3 are indeed minions. So they're like double tapping that Beastbound Assault keyword requirement. And then, so what this is really kind of saying is score this in an end phase if each survivor amongst Zondara and Verlaine has 1 or more charge tokens. Yeah, I mean, she's got a range 3 spell, right? Or range 2, and it's not a spell. Why was I thinking I guess the spell reaction is what was within 3 hexes is what I was thinking about there. Yeah, I mean, that seems explorable. So like, we already have grabbed 7 of these. I'm feeling pretty comfortable that we're going to get a good end phase pool. Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly minion has 1 or more tokens. So tokens here being any assortment, so that could be stagger, guard, charge, move. So if they're grave breaking, then they really aren't delving, but that is available to them. Raise counters don't work. Those are counters, not tokens. I think this is I think I like Reckless Effort more than I like trying to get tokens on all 3 of these guys. But you could just move and then grave break. We'll add it. We'll think about it. It's going to depend more on like the rest of the game plan and how that comes together. But right now, imagining that'll be a cut. Gifted Pathfinder. 1 or more friendly fighters are each on an objective token that is not in your territory, and 1 or more of those fighters are within 2 hexes of another friendly fighter that is a beast companion minion. Or we're just going to refer to like this verbiage as Beastbound. So as I read more cards, what I'll do is I'll say one or more of those fighters are within 2 hexes of another friendly fighter that is Beastbound. That'll make this easier for both of us. So one or more are each on an objective token that is not in your territory. So this could just be an objective sitting on no one's territory, and then being within 2 of one of our other fighters. Zondara, if she's upgraded, otherwise everyone else. I think that is totally reasonable. In fact, I'd rather go for Gifted Pathfinder over Tireless Revenants, so I'm going to go ahead and cut Tireless Revenants already. Inseparable Friends, one or more surviving friendly beasts. Wait, is this on? Yeah, this is just on. So like Furlane could charge into one of these positions too, with how fast he is. And this can be, it has to be objective. So it can't be like something that you've just plundered in his cover. That's okay. We're dealing with objectives mostly anyways, with what we're grave breaking, because you can't grave break a feature token. It's got to be an objective. Inseparable Friends, hybrid, score this in an end phase if one or more surviving friendly beasts, companions, and or minions each have one or more denizen upgrades. Okay. Or one or more surviving friendly. Okay. So we're asking somebody that is already meeting our keyword requirements to also have a denizen upgrade. Or one or more surviving friendly fighters each have 2 or more denizen upgrades. So this would depend on how much we're leaning into the denizen game plan, and is fairly easy glory from there, but I think we're going to hold off on that one and train them up. One or more friendly fighters each made one or more move actions, one or more attack actions, and one or more other actions in the preceding phase. One or more friendly fighters each made. Okay, so because of the each made, they need to, one fighter has to at minimum meet this requirement. They have to have made a move, an attack, and something else, and be Beastbound. So let's avoid this because that's a lot. I mean, it's a charge and something. That's not actually terrible. Charge. So it's a charge and one thing. So if we do something and then charge, we're okay there. Remember that when you grave break, you won't be on the objective. It's a little anti-synergy. Yeah. Yep. Unless you have somebody next to where you're grave breaking. So let's go to, I mean, we ended up with 9 end phases there. So we're going to have our pick of kind of game plan. So that's pretty good. The only one that's like 100% staying is Dream's Respite. They all can kind of fight each other for their slots. I think Keen Collector I'm hoping to keep because I'm kind of a fan of when you just need to get a couple of upgrades out for 2 glory. All right, so let's go over to Surges. Were there any third end phases? No. Okay, so Surges. Let's see. Unbeatable Team. So score this immediately after an opponent's power step if there are more friendly fighters on objective tokens than enemy fighters on objective tokens, and there are more enemy fighters out of action than friendly fighters out of action for 2. Okay. Although this is tempting, as Chop just pointed out in chat, whenever you're grave breaking, you're pushing them away. So there's a little bit of anti-synergy there. The fact that you just have to be on objectives and not holding them is pretty great. But there's also then that step of having to have more enemy fighters out than you. So I think that could be all in all just a little hard with the anti-synergy as well as like having to maintain our risen fighters while trying to beat them down. So we're going to pass on an Unbeatable Team. Cruel Hope. Score this immediately after a power step if a friendly for lane has 2 or more upgrades. Yes. So this one's going to require Seed Glory, but I think that's totally worthwhile. Pay 2. Like, obviously, if this is in your opening hand, you're probably going to think twice about it. And especially if it's the only surge, you're not going to take it. But just having paid 2 into for lane in advance helps a lot. Now, what's interesting is because he's the one that's named on this objective, tragedy will never sort this one out for us. So you do have to keep that in mind. But right now, I think that's okay. So Desperate Inspiration. Score this immediately after a friendly Zondara casts a second or subsequent spell in the same phase. So she has a spell reaction that I think we're going to be trying to cast all the time. And she's a wizard level 2 looking for 1 focus. So, and this is not limited to an activation without a super action. So she can do this after a charge. Yeah, I think this is a totally fair ask of her. And I'm sure there's a spell suite as well in the Gambits. Ever Searching. Surge. Score this immediately after your Warband's second or subsequent Gravebreak reaction in the same phase. Yes, please. So especially if you get this round 1, I think this is an awesome one to get round 1 because you can start finding the upgrades that you really, really want and start getting Seed Glory for it as well. Soulbound Killers. Score this immediately after an enemy fighter is taken out of action by an attack action made by a friendly Zondara or a friendly Frelain. When you score this objective, gain 1 additional glory point if a friendly Zondara or a friendly Frelain supported that attack action. Yes. If we're killing fighters, it's going to be more than likely from one of these 2 targets. And I know there's some tricks in the deck that can help make sure that they're in that supported position for you. Be interesting. No, I don't think this deck works really well with Rime Locked Relics, but giving one of them the conduit would be super fun. I wonder if you dip into Rime Locked Relic in like a championship build just for some of the shenanigans in there, and then like grab a lot of what you need from Beastbound Assault and other unplot locked places. Another staple card. He says, yeah, I can feel this. This is definitely staple. Well, not sure if you're talking about Ever Searching or Soulbound Killers, but I think maybe both. Ever Searching for sure. Strength of Despair. Score this immediately after a friendly Zondara spell or action that takes 1 or more enemy fighters out of action. A kill surge only on her. If she does die, we can tragedy it. I'm not against it. She is slow and only hitting for 2 damage at the beginning. And always. Can she do this with her spell reaction? Spell, yeah. Okay. I think we can try that out. And Rest from the Realm. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's Gravebreaker reaction if that fighter is in enemy territory. I think we're gonna have some. Like, I mean, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've already taken 5 surges, all from them. I think this might be the one that we leave out. Just like, I actually think it's great. Like, run or walk over the line, grave break, right? And then maybe even your next activation, if you're still alive, walk back. But even if you do die, at least I can then bring you back and give you a raise token. So, actually, I'm kind of talking myself into it. I just think like we're gonna lose this fighter no matter what. So the only thing pulling me away from this is we're almost giving them like a baited target. Like, we almost want this fighter to die, I guess. Like above anybody else taking damage in the warband, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. But I am kind of forcing a 1 glory loss here for a quick 1 glory gain. I don't hate it. Let's think about it. So Dogged Determination. Score this immediately after an activation step if 1 or more vulnerable friendly fighters are each on an objective token that is not in your territory, or 2 or more friendly fighters are each on an objective token that is not in your territory, and 1 or more enemy fighters are out of action. I think this one's going to be really hard for us. So the on objectives, the being vulnerable, both of those are going to be tall orders when we're grave breaking, as well as because we only have 2 health on our initial sides, so we're gonna be dying instead of becoming vulnerable anytime somebody lands an attack on us, more than likely. So we're gonna leave that at home. Loyal Allies. Score this immediately after an activation. Score this immediately after an attack action. There we go. If a friendly fighter's attack or defense roll included one or more of a single support or a double support, and one or more of those symbols was a success. So what this communicates is that these dice results need to show up. They need to have been successes given the amount of support requirements you would need to meet them. The attack itself does not need to be successful. This card has this flaming hot symbol next to it in Underworld's DB because this card is really good. Now, not every card that you see this next to means they're really good. But the way Underworld's kind of like assesses things is if a lot of people are bringing them in their decks, then they get this like hot marker. And I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a reason this card is hot. I like this one a lot. I dip into grabbing this anytime I'm playing Championship. And like if I'm playing Beastbound Assault, this is absolutely making it into the deck. So, Tireless Explorer. A friendly fighter makes their second or subsequent move action in the same phase, and after 3 different activation steps in that phase, that fighter occupied a hex in your territory, no one's territory, and enemy territory. This card is really difficult. Now, so like, you'll start in your territory most likely, and then you have to move, and you'll land in no one's or enemy territory. You got to survive, and then you got to get into the other one. Now, the one thing that could help this card here is the fact that we can't grave break after super action. So this could be like a fighter that's doing some really risky grave breaking. Normally, I dislike this card strongly, unless you're pairing it with somebody like the Exiled Dead. But I'm entertaining it. I think this one gets cut. Like, I think the fact that... we'll see. We'll see. I think that gets cut. But Unexpected End. Score this immediately after an enemy fighter is taken out of action by a friendly fighter other than a leader that is Beastbound. So a Kill Surge, probably for Lane doing the killing, but maybe one of our zombies as well. Not terrible. We're going to leave that out because our attacks are pretty garbage and we stand together. Surge Duel. Score this immediately after an opponent's power step if 2 or more friendly fighters are each a Beastbound fighter and 2 or more of those fighters are on objective tokens. So the reason this one's getting the hot symbol from Underworld's DB, the reason people include this one quite a bit, is because it doesn't matter where these objective tokens are. And for that reason, I think we're actually going to really entertain this, because what we can do is we could like spend our first turn or 2 grave breaking in our territory and grave break those objectives into starting hexes where other fighters are, and then just automatically score this along with scoring something like the Ever Searching. So I think this one's going to be quite hot for us, actually. So that gives us 18. Wow, we have 9 in each category. We're really going to get our pick here. I think we're really going to have a healthy objective deck. So let's get into Gambits, and let's start with spells. So what can Zondara weave for us? So we have 3 in-faction spells, and and none in Beastbound Assault. They would have shown up here. It makes sense. It's not really supposed to be a wizard deck. Wild Incantation. Let's start at the bottom. Gambit spell. Channel. If cast, consider rolls of double support as successes in attack actions made by friendly fighters. This effect persists until the end of the phase. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Wow. All right, so some of these synergies are really starting to come alive already. So if we bring Wild Incantation, that helps with loyal allies, as well as helps with... where was it? Casting 2 spells. Desperate Inspiration. Yeah. So far, I'm hotter on Desperate Inspiration and hotter on Loyal Allies right out of the gate. So I'm feeling good here, and let's see where else. We Stand Together and Ever Searching. Like, those are my favorite 4 of the surges already after seeing 1 card. If cast, choose a friendly... so right at the Unbound here. We have a Focus is what we're trying to cast this with. If cast, choose a friendly fighter within 3 hexes of the caster. In the next activation, for each success, including critical successes in the casting roll, that fighter has +1 move and their attack actions have Grievous 1. Oh, snap. Does she stay a level 2 wizard? I assume so. Yeah, okay. So, unless we have wizard support in their deck, what we're looking at here is we could roll 2 successes. And so we could give somebody in the next activation +1 move and Grievous 2. That's worth considering, I think. Even if it's just Grievous 1 and an extra move, that could be pretty good. Something's something telling me that this isn't gonna like find its way in. Like it's going to be that 11th card that's fighting for a spot, but let's entertain it. Atavistic Creativity. So Gambit spell reaction, looking for channel. Oh, this one's a reaction? Hot. Okay, play this after you place a feature token. If cast, give a friendly fighter an upgrade. Do not spend any glory points when you do so. Oh, yes. Yes. So not only is that a spell, but that's helping us get an upgrade. Cast gives. So play this after you place a feature token. I think that's the same window as Gravebreak. After this fighter's activation, other than an activation. So, let's see. After this fighter's activation, other than an activation that included a super action, place an objective token from this fighter's hex into an adjacent hex. Then you may unearth and exhume. Oh, I see what's happening. Okay. So if you respond to Gravebreak with this, you have to give the upgrade. You interrupt this sequence. So then you come back and you unearth or exhume. So you have to have an upgrade in mind already. You can't go fetch an upgrade and give it out in the same movement there. So if there's specifically one you want to get from unearthing, you got to do that first. Hold this in hand. Wait for the next time you place, and then put that out. But I think that's really good. So I think for sure, Wild Incarnation is making it into the deck. Then probably this one, and then we'll see if Ride of the Unbound can fight its way in. All right, so especially since we're going to be like we have such easy access to upgrades, I think we're going to be able to flood our hand with upgrades faster than we're going to be able to put them out. So I think for many reasons that's a good card for them. All right, let's look at the rest of the 7 cards Zondara could offer us. Blind Devotion, reaction. Play this after an enemy fighter's move action that ends within 2 hexes of a friendly Zondara. Push another friendly fighter up to 2 hexes or up to 4 hexes if that fighter is Furlane, so they are adjacent to that enemy fighter. Yes. Love that. Man, anytime I see push 4, I can't help but think of redeploy in Fearsome Fortress, and you can just do so much with that. Like, this is a card I would always want to try to play and see what wild things like board state changes I can facilitate with a sweep like this. That's really cool. Bond Unbroken. You can re-roll an attack dice in Furlane's attack rolls while there is a surviving friendly Zondara. You can re-roll a defense dice in Zondara's defense rolls while there is a surviving friendly Furlane. This effect persists until the end of the phase. And this isn't a domain. This is just extremely good. So you're going to be able to increase her survivability, especially, I mean, like either way, before or after she's inspired. But sometimes that might be make or break, like her ability to live long enough to get inspired. If you need to re-roll that 1 dice to get that single success or critical success to keep her alive. And then we're fishing for swords here. And on this side, we're even fishing for a crit. Yeah. That lasts a round. Man, we've got 4 cards for sure, 5 that are all fighting to stay in our power deck. Cobbled Corpse. Play this after a friendly minion is taken out of action. Place that minion within 1 hex of an objective token in your territory, then give that fighter a raise counter and either a move or a charge token. Perfect. We're bringing that. That's awesome. That not only will keep our zombies in the game and can do so even if we've lost our leader, but that helps like straight up with which one was it? We Stand Together. So, like that one a lot. Curious Remnants. Choose a friendly fighter within 1 hex of 1 or more feature tokens and pick 1. Heal 1 that fighter or push that fighter 1 hex. I'm a big fan of that push there. So like I think I would take this card even if it said push that fighter 1. If it just said heal, I wouldn't be about this card because I think again a lot of the time we're just going to lose fighters off an incoming attack. But the fact that the heal is there is nice. Like I won't say no. And I'm into that push. So Devoted Strike. +1 dice to the first attack actions made by a friendly fighter other than Zondara in the next activation. If a friendly Zondara is within 2 hexes of the target of that attack action has cleave until it has been resolved. Okay. +1 dice on next activation is great, but I think this is going to be one of those cards that doesn't make it into our deck. Let's think about it. We could look into running like more upgrades and even then more Gambits with her, I think, because of the fact that she can fish for upgrades. And there's a couple cards in here that I think we're going to be fans of. I don't think Devoted Strike will ultimately make the cut, but like normally these are both very favorable abilities. Push each friendly minion up to 1 hex. Yeah, man. Okay, so I probably like Driven Lurch better than Cobbled Corpse, or no, not Curious Remnants. So I'll probably pick Driven Lurch before I pick Curious Remnants. This is universal though. This can be any friendly fighter. Oh man, wow. Okay. Man, really good choices in this deck. Maniac Pursuit. Reaction. After an enemy fighter makes a move action or is taken out of action, choose a friendly fighter. The chosen fighter makes a move action that must end adjacent to that enemy fighter or in the hex the enemy fighter was in when they were taken out of action. Makes a move. Okay. After an enemy makes a move or is killed, I get to choose one of mine. And then they make a move that must end adjacent to that enemy fighter or in the hex they just existed in. All right, let's take a look. Grave breaks after an activation, not just an action. That seems really good. So it would have been even better if, it would have been bonkers good if it worked with Grave Break. But we've just selected all 10 of their cards. So let's go ahead and get rid of Ride of the Unbound and Devoted Strike right now. Let's start making room. All right, Blossoming Friendship. Choose a friendly fighter with no tokens. Give that fighter 1 denizen upgrade from your hand. This does not cost any glory points. Then give the chosen fighter 1 charge and 1 stagger token. I think the charge and stagger token here are going to cause us a pass, unfortunately. This is actually, so once upon a time, I tried this with Skate's Wild Hunt, and partly because like there were ways to like cheat out upgrades and charge tokens. But we don't really need to cheat out an upgrade for the cost of a charge token here, especially not a specifically denizen upgrade. Defensive formation. Choose up to 2 friendly fighters in your territory that are each Beastbound. Give each chosen fighter 1 guard token. That's really great on Verlaine to help him out, and theoretically Zondara herself because they're both on 2 dice, but it goes further on Verlaine because he's on 2 dodge. It's definitely a defensive formation. I don't think we're gonna have room for it, but I don't hate it either. I think this is gonna fall out due to game plan more than anything, because if we were going for that one surge where our minions or all of our fighters had to have tokens, this could help with that. Or if we were really trying to like hold positions for end phase, this could help with that. So we're going to take a look at the surges in end phase that we took before we consider cutting this one. But I don't think it offers enough towards the game plan, not where some of these other cards are taking us. Friendly Swarm, heal 1. Each friendly fighter that is a beast, companion, minion, and or has one or more denizen upgrades. So heal our whole warband, especially if we've got a denizen upgrade down on our leader. Man, with her inherent heal already, she might be able to like help out heal an enemy warband. So like I think I'd take Friendly Swarm over Defensive Formation, just to lean into what she's already doing from a healing standpoint. So let's entertain that. Launch an attack. Choose a friendly fighter with 1 or more upgrades. Break one of the chosen fighter's upgrades. Then choose an enemy fighter within 4 hexes of the chosen friendly fighter. Deal 1 damage to the chosen enemy fighter. If you broke a denizen card, stagger the chosen enemy fighter. So, woo! I've got volume on. Thank you for subscribing. You scared the hell out of me. All right, turning that off. Or at least down. Yeah, let's just go down. Launch an attack. Yes, that is going to be being able to just sacrifice an upgrade at a moment's notice to deal 1 damage within 4 is pretty crazy. You can follow up a successful attack by just destroying an upgrade on a nearby fighter to take that to take a now vulnerable fighter out of action. Or you can start setting up a stagger even before that moment to try to get that attack to land better. Overly Protective. This is a card I was excited about with this pairing. We'll be taking this one for sure. Play this after a successful attack action that targeted a friendly fighter that is a beast, companion, minion, or has a denizen upgrade, so Beastbound. Draw 2 power cards. So anybody successfully attacks one of ours that's Beastbound, we get to draw 2 power cards in reaction. That's incredibly good. And one of the reasons why I think you would actually explore more than the traditional 10-10 on this warband, especially with this pairing. Savage Their Eyes. Choose an enemy fighter within 2 hexes of 1 or more friendly fighters that are Beastbound. -1 dice from attack actions made by the chosen fighter. This effect persists until the end of the round or until after the chosen fighter's next attack action. So at minimum, you're making 1 attack action much harder for somebody that's currently within 2 of one of your fighters. Oh, man. Savage Their Eyes is something I would normally take, but normally I feel like way more pressed in the power deck area. I don't think we can afford Savage Their Eyes. I don't think it's a bad choice. I think this one's going to be personal preference. This is a way to kind of control, hopefully not taking damage, and surviving an attack instead of something like healing. But with our inherent healing powers, I want to, again, like complement that with something like Friendly Swarm. And this is a card I never run. Like, I've never run this card before. I just didn't think it was good in any other Beastbound Assault deck I've tried to run. But here, I'm choosing it over Savage Their Eyes, and I'm choosing it over Defensive Formation. So this is interesting. We'll see if I regret this when I come back with the field report. Unexpected Ally. This card's amazing. We're taking this card. Choose a friendly fighter. The chosen fighter is considered to have an additional supporting fighter when making a range 1 or range 2 attack action. This effect persists until the chosen fighter makes a successful range 1 or range 2 attack action. So persists until they make a successful range 1 or range 2 attack action. Which is what makes this card so good. So if they miss, this stays. If the round ends, this stays. Like, this will be out until either that fighter dies, and like even then, this technically still persists. But until they either can or can no longer make that successful attack for you, and it's going to really help with the Loyal Allies surge as well. Vicious Critters. Domain. Range 1 attack actions other than scything attack actions made by Beastbound individuals have Grievous 1. This effect persists until the end of the round or until another Domain Gambit is played. Now, we could take this for similar reasons to why we took the Domain from... which one? Or I can't think of what that was called. But the Domain in Chillblain Hunt, where it gives you expedited token generation for your thought or counters for your thought counters. This we could bring in, let's see, range 1 attacks. So it would make, like, for Lane's attack more explosive. When does it end? When does it end again? Hold on, sorry. Ooh. All right. This effect persists until the end of the round or until another domain gambit is played. So you actually can get multiple attacks off on this one. A lot of the time you'll see these will only work until an attack action is like at best successful. So this can have quite a bit of sticking power. I don't hate this. Like, persisting just extra grievous is probably really good. And then the reason I was talking about why we brought one with Chillblain Hunt is it seemed it would help with their thought counter game plan. It didn't help as much there as I would have liked. I found thought counters just like aren't actually too time demanding in my opinion. Like, you can choose, is it going to take one of my turns or two of my turns, and it really doesn't change that equation much. Whereas Vicious Critters here, in both cases, with Rhymeworm Bite being out, domains kind of like go up and down in value at the same time, because they can be used to counter Rhymeworm Bite domains and pull them out, but at the same time they can also then be countered by Rhymeworm Bite domains. So I think, at least for like current meta, we're going to toss this in as a tech piece, because and we're going to try to keep it into the deck if we can, because either A, this is explosive, or B, this helps counter my opponent's game plan. So, all right, enough said on that one. Well trained. Choose a friendly fighter that is Beastbound. Push the chosen fighter up to 2 hexes. Yes. A push of 2 on a single fighter. And any of our fighters, including Zondara, if she can find herself a denizen upgrade, yes. Winds of Wrath. While one or more fighters that are Beastbound are out of action, +1 dice to range 1 attack actions other than scything attack actions made by those fighters' warbands. This effect persists until the end of the round or until another domain gambit is played. So domains always count on both sides. So that's something to think about with Vicious Critters as well, is you're also giving their beast companions, minions, probably not denizen upgraded fighters, you're giving them this grievous one as well. So keep that in mind. And then here, it's the +1 dice for, let's see, as long as the warband that's getting the benefit has a beast companion, minion, or denizen upgraded fighter out of action, they're getting this +1 dice. So if you've killed a beast or companion or minion on the enemy team, you're also granting them this +1 dice. I think we'll pass on this one. I like it, and I might return to it maybe after testing, but I don't think that there's room for this one, especially since somebody has to have died already, and then it's kind of pressuring us to not bring them back. And I think we're going to want to bring back our zombies as quickly as we can. Reason being, by the way, is because if somebody kills all 3 of your zombies, then you're SOL. There's no way to bring them back if all 3 are dead. So once one dies, then like there's pressure to bring them back before you lose the other 2. So if 2 are currently dead and you've chosen kind of like to let one stay out, all of a sudden you've got 1 turn left to like go get the other one before you're completely out of luck there. I actually, my first time up against Gravebreakers, I played the new Spikeclaw, and I went in and had an awesome scything attack and took out 2 or 3 of them. I think I'd already killed 1, and then I went in and killed the other 2, and all of a sudden we kind of discovered that together. We're like, oh, wait a minute. There's no way to bring them back now. Yeah, I don't think we want to lean into leaving one out for that +1 dice, especially when it's going to be matchup dependent like that. And we got 14 Gambits, so feeling pretty good there. I'm actually glad that we were somehow able to keep it down to 14, because I was really enjoying pretty much every Gambit I read there. So let's move on to upgrades. All right, so in upgrades, let's Should we start bottom down this time? Let's start bottom down this time. Reason being, let's get an idea for how many denizen upgrades we're going to be looking at here. So Vicious Familiar. Use this during an adjacent enemy fighter's attack action after the attack roll. If the attack roll contained 2 or more attack dice, the attacking player must pick 1 attack dice from the attack roll, ignore the result on that dice. So somebody is attacking us adjacently, right? And then we're reacting immediately after the attack roll, assuming it had multiple dice. Pretty much all attacks do. And we're telling them you have to forego 1 of your dice. So if they roll, let's say they're throwing 3 dice at you, they roll 2 successes and a fail, then they're just removing the failure and nothing has really happened. But if they rolled complete successes and they have to remove 1, then that increases your chances of succeeding in your defense against them. Now, crits obviously make this messy, and often I feel like fighters are able to throw 3 dice these days, 2, 3, 4 dice at you a lot of the time, especially aggro warbands. So a lot of warbands will shake this off, but there are going to be times where this is like the reason you stayed alive, and possibly the reason across multiple attacks. So I think this is worth at least exploring. I don't know, how jam-packed we're going to be, but I know some of these denizen upgrades are a bit rough. So as far as they go, this is kind of one of the more decent ones. Unsettling Fowler. Enemy fighters within 1 hex of this fighter cannot hold objectives. So plant this next to somebody holding an objective, and all of a sudden they're not holding that objective. It is a denizen upgrade. This is extremely niche. This is like straight up teching against 1 game plan and 1 game plan only, against hold objectives. And if you bring this, like at minimum, it's a denizen upgrade for you. But at most, like it can really shut down scoring for your opponent. Hold is getting really popular again right now. I don't actually think this is a bad include. I think this is a really niche include, and you have to be the type of player who is okay with this not working for you in a lot of matchups. But it is something to consider, and we're going to consider it here. Stalking Terror. When another friendly fighter within 2 hexes of this fighter that is Beastbound, so another friendly fighter within 2, and that fighter is Beastbound. Okay. They could have wrote this starting, so yeah, it could be like, when a Beastbound friendly fighter within 2 hexes of this fighter makes a range 1 or range 2 attack action, this fighter supports that fighter. That's really good. Also denizen upgrade. So we're 3 for 3 on denizen upgrades we take, but this is actually the best one so far. Kindred Affinity. At the start of the action phase, draw the top card of your deck or your power deck and reveal it. If that card is a denizen upgrade, give that upgrade to this fighter. This does not cost any glory points. Otherwise, add that card to your hand. So this card is not very good, in my opinion. Like you need it in round 1. It's not a denizen upgrade on its own, so it's not doing much for you. Like if you get it in like the final round. So you got to get this in round 1, and even then, it's only replacing itself and then drawing you 1 more card at best. It's neat. It's nice. We're moving on. Inspiring mascot. Denizen. You cannot give this to a leader or a large fighter. I think we like both of those things. So hold on. Is Furlane large? He's never large. Not inherently. Okay, so this could go to Furlane. Okay, so let's go back down. So we can't give this to our leader. At the end of the action phase, heal 1 this fighter, then push this fighter up to 1 hex. So if you draw this early, this is phenomenal. If you draw this late, this does nothing. But when I say phenomenal, I mean it. Like the fact that you can reposition is really good. And the fact that you can heal as well as reposition at the end of an action phase is really good. So let's at least consider that. Helpful Little Finder. We won't be taking this card. At the start of the action phase, give this fighter 1 upgrade from your hand. This does not cost any glory points. Then draw 1 power card and break this card. So do not draw this in round 3 or you're going to have a bad time. And then like this pretty much is just like, it's like a upgrade placeholder. Like you get this in round 1, round 2, and you put it down, and then later you get to draw another power card and give this fighter 1 upgrade from you and give 1 upgrade, right? So it's like paying for the upgrade now, getting it later. I mean, I like it more than Kindred Affinity. I've had to take it before, and maybe I just have some personal bias against this card because like on paper, I think that if you get it in round 1 or round 2, like at least it replaces itself and draws a card and all that, but it just doesn't do enough for you in the moment. Like it's paying now to minimize like the cards in your deck or streamline the cards in your deck, but on later rounds. Not a fan in practice. So Ever Hungry Fiend, Denizen. You cannot give this to a fighter in your territory. So you have to get at least to no one's territory. Do not break this card if this fighter is in your territory, so it's okay to come back. When this fighter makes an attack action that targets an adjacent fighter, this fighter is considered to have 1 additional supporting fighter. This is really great. This is excellent. If we can get this on for lane, for example, this is going to be nuts. So at some point in time, we run over it into enemy territory or even just no one's, get this upgrade out, and we come back. We got the movement speed, we got the health. So yes, it's a risky position that you have to put yourself in to gain the benefit, but it's totally worth it. Like it's an incredible accuracy piece going forward. Deadly Swarm. So like this is an attack action. A range 1, 2 hammers, and the damage is based on this swarm ability below. It does have its snare as well. The damage characteristic is equal to the number of denizen upgrades this fighter has. This attack action's characteristics cannot be modified. So if we were leaning completely into denizen upgrades, we'd go this way. And I know it's kind of looked like we have been, but that's just because we started down here first. I'm really excited to look into Zondara's upgrades, and I'm pretty confident we won't have room for this, especially since we're always going to be leaning our upgrades into our main 2 fighters. So it's not like it's going to be giving us like a better attack on the minions. So in fact, can we even give this to the minions? No. We can't give it to Furlan either because he's a beast. Yeah, weapons are terrible with this warband. Okay, Amberbone Flute. So we already took Countless Familiars. This one's making it into the deck no matter what. Amberbone Flute. Reaction. After this fighter's activation, give this fighter a charge token. Again, I thought about this one a little bit with Whiskey's Wild Hunt. But spoilers, this deck is not the play. Rhinelock Relics is the play for them. Then reveal cards from the top of your power deck 1 by 1 until you reveal a denizen upgrade. Add that card to your hand. Then, or if you did not reveal a denizen upgrade, place the revealed cards in your power deck and shuffle that deck. So we're not going to be leaning into this wholeheartedly anyways. Like the only reason I think I would bring Amberbone Flute in this build is if I also only brought Countless Familiars. So it would essentially be a tutor for Countless Familiars. But at that point in time, like I've already had to spend Seed Glory, and I just don't think that would be worth it enough. Like to spend a Seed Glory to go find a different upgrade to get me to 2, right? When another Seed Glory on its own and any other upgrade would just get me to those 2 upgrades that I would need. Yeah, so already just talked myself even furtherly out of Amberbone Flute there. And into Zondara's upgrades. Let's go. All right. We have Undying Love as our first. When you give this upgrade to a fighter, and at the start of each round, if there is a surviving friendly Zondara and a surviving friendly Lane, heal one each of those fighters. Then you can push one of those fighters up to 3 hexes towards the other. That's bonkers. That's so cool. The one thing here, if there's a surviving friendly Zondara and a surviving friendly Lane, heal one each of those fighters. I'm gonna have to look up if you can play this card if they can't be healed, because you might not be able to. That might be just Gambits. That might not be something that Upgrades has to manage. Yeah, I'm curious if you're forced to heal. This goes, like, I think this is still really good. Like, we should probably still take this. But that would make, like, the timing of when you can play this card really difficult. Salvage Intelligence. I mentioned that this card earlier, that this one would come up. This fighter is not and cannot be a beast. So this goes on for lane. So thematically, right, like, we've been able to restore that intelligence. Reaction. After friendly Zondara's activation, if that fighter did not make a charge super action, this fighter makes an action other than a super action. So all of a sudden, both fighters can be activating. Both fighters can be moving, attacking, a mix of the two, stun and then attack. Like, this is really cool. Oh, even this isn't just super actions. Theoretically, if you really wanted to, one of them could barge. Or Zondara could barge, and then Salvage Intelligence would still go off. She's barging on in. Quick, for lane, take down the target. All right. Reshape to darts. Spell attack action, range 4. And she's a wizard level 2. This is looking for channel, dealing 1 damage. This is pretty cool, especially with something like Salvage Intelligence. So she can get a shot off from afar, and then Salvage Intelligence can trigger. I like it. We will be considering that. Excavated Bludgeon. Attack action. You can give this to a beast. So this is the only weapon for our minions. And this is range 1, 2 dice to deal 3 damage. That's pretty spicy. Let's bring that. This would be a case for that for any of those +1 dice cards that I've kind of been ignoring. I wonder if this will make it into the deck. We might leave this at home. And this might be something I talk about next week, about how I wish I'd brought this and brought some of that +1 dice stuff. We might have enough support stuff going on, though, where we're able to make this essentially like 2 hammers in probability. Curse Strength. +1 damage to range 1 and range 2 attack actions on this fighter card. After this fighter's range 1 or range 2 attack action, deal 1 damage to this fighter. Okay, so at the cost of a damage to ourselves, we're able to crank up our own damage as long as it's coming from an attack on our card. So like Excavated Bludgeon would not benefit from Cursed Strength. Extra damage is always good. Cursed Power, +1 wizard level. Oh, snap. This fighter suffers backlash if there are 1 or more critical results in their casting roll. No, absolutely not. I'm not bringing this. +1 wizard level. Hold on. Is it heal another fighter or heal? If pick 1, heal 1 a friendly fighter within 3 hexes, so she can heal herself. I guess she kind of has to focus on healing herself if she ever does that backlash to her. Oh, this is cool. So if we brought this in, we didn't want to consider that one spell I got rid of earlier where she can give like plus move and plus grievous. I think I got rid of that for every success. The backlash thing she can shrug off as long as she then uses her reaction to heal herself. I'm still not hot on it. Like, I don't think we're bringing anything that super needs that extra wizard level. A lot of stuff we've been bringing has been on channel. I'm gonna leave it. Curse Flesh, +1 wounds. After this fighter is taken out of action, break this card. Cool. So this is meant to not be able to give the zombies extra wounds across extra lives, but can still go on them. That's really neat. Broken Heart. While a friendly Zondara or a friendly Furlane is out of action, +1 dice to this fighter's attack actions, and this fighter is inspired. Reaction: when a friendly Zondara or a friendly Furlane is taken out of action, give this to a friendly fighter. Do not spend any glory points when you do so. So this is cool, but I don't know if I like it. I think we want them both to stay alive as long as possible in as many games as possible. So I think that this isn't going to come up much if things are going extremely well. Thematically, I love it, but I think we're going to pass on that one. Borrowed Power. This is that other art frame I was telling you I really like, with this entity behind her. This fighter's attack actions have Cleave and Grievous. This goes on Zondara, and this can be her ranged attacks, including this spell attack here. Let's see. So she gets up to 3 dice when she's inspired, range 2. Yeah. Being able to turn those into Cleave and Grievous, I think, is pretty good. Let's bring that. And lastly, Amber Bone Infusion. This fighter's defense characteristic is 2. So this is meant for the zombies. Oh, interesting. So we can get a zombie up to 2 block. Yeah, let's entertain it. Let's see if we have enough. Amber Bone Infusion. I really like the callback to Amber Bone. Amber Bone relics was a thing, like Amber Bone weapons was a thing in the Beastgrave era, Beastgrave Diachasm. I think Beastgrave specifically. So it's actually cool to just see any reference of Amber Bone coming back. All right, we're on to the cut. So we are going to try to cut this down to 12, 11, 11, I think. I might be sick. I might not be myself. And I might decide 12, 10, 10. We'll see. But just given that they can go fetch upgrades, even like 12, 10, 11 doesn't feel terrible, I don't think. We have a draw 2 in here. Another way to look at it, I guess, would be if we draw 2 cards with Countless Familiar, or sorry, that's not what it's called, with Overly Protective. If we're able to draw 2 cards from that and we grave break 3 times total, then we will see our entire deck. If we grave break, or sorry, if we unearth off of a grave break. So without having to see, or without having to take any draw actions, we can see all 20 cards, which I like a lot. But maybe we go for that. Yeah, let's go for that. So the idea is grave break into unearth 3 times, and you can see your whole deck. And then if you don't see Overly Protective, then it's in the bottom of your deck, and there's only one other card you haven't seen. Yeah, so you're either seeing Overly Protective and seeing all your cards, or you're not seeing it and one other card. That would be a pretty reliable deck, pretty consistent deck. So viewers, dear viewers, if you could start thinking of a name. I don't have one yet. I often don't have one until, because I like to explore the build and think about it from there. So start thinking about one. And in the meantime, let's start cutting surges. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's grave break reaction if that fighter is in enemy territory. So I wasn't super hot on having to be in enemy territory for that. Soulbound Killers. Score this immediately after an enemy fighter is taken out of action by an attack action made by a friendly Zondara or a friendly Furlane, and the potential to flex us up on damage if the other one is supporting. I think we want Soulbound Killers for the extra potential. We want Ever Searching and Desperate Inspiration. So these 3 I'm super hot on. I'm hot on We Stand Together and Loyal Allies. Tireless Explorer less so. We're We're going to get rid of Tireless Explorer. It kind of feels like a worse version of Rest from the Realm, truthfully. So we already have a Kill Surge in here. We can Tragedy this one if need be. Do we have any spells that deal damage? Oh, I guess her attack damage. Or if we bring her range 4 spell, reshaped arts. Okay. So right now, Strength of Despair and Rest from the Realm are fighting for a slot. And then we need to look at Cruel Hope again. Scores immediately after a power step if a friendly fighter has 2 or more upgrades. Oh, you know what? I'm actually just going to give it to that slot. We're going to give Cruel Hope what Strength of Despair and Rest from the Realm was fighting for. So what this means is we have 1 surge that requires a kill, but can get up to 2 glory. 1 that just requires 2 grave breaks. 2 successfully cast spells, which I think is totally reasonable. Cruel Hope, score this immediately after a power step if a friendly for lane has 2 or more upgrades. And so this one requires 2 investment seed glory. This is standing in the right spots, and this is assuming one of these are successes, and we have so many tools to make sure that one of those are inherently successful. So we have our surge pool all taken care of. So then what's our end game plan? So we know we have Dreamer's Respite. We're not getting rid of that. So we want both to be surviving when we score this and potentially gain 2 additional glory points if that's at the end of the game. King Collector, we might actually have enough Denizen upgrades and be able to keep enough Denizen upgrades to make that worthwhile. Train them up. So charge and something else is made extremely possible, I think, by Salvaged Intelligence. Let's see. 1 or more friendly fighters are each on an objective token that is not in your territory, and 1 or more of those fighters are within 2 hexes of another. So a positional 1. I think we can get rid of Effortless Teamwork. There are more enemy fighters out of action than friendly fighters out of action, and each surviving friendly fighter is Beastbound. Yeah, let's get rid of Effortless Teamwork, just because it might take us some time to tip the scales in that direction. And, well, actually, I kind of like it. So the reason I like Effortless Teamwork a little bit more than like a card where it's like, hey, have more alive than them, is because like you have more agency over this. You're taking the enemies out of action, and as soon as you get 1 out, that's a count of 1, right? And so then if you can just stay above that count of 1, then you can score this. And if you can stay, like, let's say they kill 1 of yours, well, now you just have to get that count on their side up to 2. Now that's harder into elites for sure, but I think it might actually be worthwhile for 2. I'm also almost considering, what if we had 7 end phase because of Tragedy? I haven't played with Tragedy before, but I feel like for example, Fates Entwined would require, so if Zondara died, we could Tragedy this, right? You can discard an objective card that names 1 or more friendly fighters that, yeah. So, are there any others like that in here? I guess Fates Entwined is the only one. But then up here, Tragedy helps with these surges. I guess that doesn't really weigh into. So, yeah, I mean, it does. It does weigh in here, right? So, like, let's say Zondara dies and we Tragedy, Desperate Inspiration away, and we Tragedy Fates Entwined away. Like, does that justify bringing more in the end phase to have more to score by the end of the game? Let's see. Let's keep Okay, let's start from the bottom. Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter that is not a minion has one or more charge tokens. I think that's totally doable for one. No stone unturned. Score this in an end phase if you place 3 or more different feature tokens in the preceding action phase. For 2, I really want to try for that. Life and death. Score this in an end phase if there are more surviving inspired friendly fighters than there are surviving inspired enemy fighters. This is the one. So I think this is way harder than effortless teamwork. So let's get rid of life and death. I'd pick effortless teamwork over that one any day. Fates entwined. So they're within 2 hexes of each other, or they're both dead. So, man, that's interesting because you probably actually don't tragedy this away, unless you know you're going into like the 3rd end phase and Furlane is still alive as well. Dreamer's Respite for sure. So these 4 are solid. Train them up, I think, is solid here. I wouldn't always think so, but I do definitely here. And 1 or more other actions in the preceding phase. I guess what other action are we asking them to take? We don't have any like named actions in our upgrades. So we're asking them to stun, or we're asking them to go on guard. Maybe we do get rid of train them up. I think that's totally fair to get rid of. And Gifted Pathfinder. Gifted Pathfinder's only 1 point. So I think we cut it for now. I wouldn't be surprised if like I'm interested in bringing this up to 13 next week, at least for testing. Maybe even I consider it between now and when I see you next. Maybe one of the test games I run a 13th objective. I mean, 1 test game is not enough. But I'm really intrigued by tragedy, is what it comes down to. All right, so Gambits. Let's see. I think it's going to be easier to cut upgrades right now. We know we need a few denizen upgrades to help with this. Surviving friendly leader. So can't tragedy this away. Could we? Names 1 or more friendly fighters. I think names means it has to say Zondara. Okay. So, Countless Familiars is in. Every Hungry Fiend is really good, but does require us to get risky with a position before we can reap the benefits. I think that 99% of the time this is on for lane, and you just bounce him back into your territory off of some of the cool synergistic effects for him. Inspiring Mascot. This would also go on for lane, and is probably worth it, especially if we're going for Dreamer's Respite. Let's see. When another friendly fighter within 2 of this fighter is Beastbound and makes their range 1 or range 2, this is considered to be supporting, so that really helps with getting our stretch goal on soulbound killers. So we're really liking that so far. So we've got three denizen upgrades. However, this one's going on for lane, likely. This one's going on for lane, likely. Can't go on the leader. So right now our plan is Countless Familiars and Stalking Terror for Keen Collector. That's probably not enough. Keen Collector might be a bad play here, because I don't think we have room for unsettling Follower. We could bring Vicious Familiar, and then we've got 4 upgrades that can all go on our leader to help with Keen Collector. Because we could always risk her a second for Ever Hungry Fiend. 1, 2. Yeah, I think we keep Vicious Familiar and we get rid of Unsettling Fowler. And then let's go. So this card, if we give this to third lane, which I feel like is probably not a bad call. It actually is going to make this break. So these two are going to be at odds with each other, Cursed Flesh and Mascot. Cursed Strength, we're damaging ourselves to deal extra damage to our opponent. And although, so like I feel like this would go on a zombie, because I don't really think that we're going to want to be injuring our main two. So that's something to think about. Borrowed Power, we're giving Cleave and Grievous to Zondara. I think that's really powerful. She's one of our main fighters, so let's give her the help. Excavated Bludgeon, I think, is probably going. Could Excavated Bludgeon... No, it can't get benefited by Cursed Strength. Cursed Strength doesn't play well with that. So I think, actually, maybe... I mean, you could use Cursed Strength to really... Cursed Strength is more flexible than Excavated Bludgeon. So let's get rid of Excavated Bludgeon. And then... So we're at 12. Salvage Intelligence and Undying Love, I think we both keep. This is hard. Like, I think we might be considering cutting this +1 wounds. And maybe even this defense characteristic of 2 for the zombies. I do think that we're probably okay to not give the zombies full defense upgrades, because they're at least at 3 health once they raise. So at least they have to be doing 2 attacks if they're average attacks, or at least 1 pumped attack, and we're going to be happy that that pumped attack is going into them and not our main 2. So I think we get rid of that. And then over here, if cast, consider rolls of double support successes. That works great with loyal allies. We're keeping that. Atavistic Creativity. Place after you place a feature token. If cast, give a friendly fighter an upgrade. Do not spend any glory points when you do. I think that's really good, especially for Desperate Inspiration. So like we've got these two helping us with Desperate Inspiration. Her built-in and reshaped darts. So we have enough. We need at least 3 pieces. And her piece goes way further than like a 3rd piece. Like that makes it so like we could actually even lose one of these and probably still be fine. Especially if it was only looking for 1 spellcast, but since it is looking for 2, I'd rather keep all 4 of those components. So this part's gonna be hard. This part's gonna be really hard. 146. Okay, let's rush through, see what we pull out. This has been really fun to dive into, but I do need to go and get back to work here shortly. So well trained, man. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I actually think all 6 of these are really good for them. Friendly Swarm is the thing I'm the least hot on, but I'm always not so hot on Heal. The fact that it helps with Dreamer's Respite, the fact that it helps everyone is making me try to stay my hand, make me try this out. So I think we keep trying Friendly Swarm. Well Trained, I know I want. Push a 2. This is helping with our damage output, almost more so than like something like Cursed Strength. So I think we need that. Launch and Attack also helps our damage output. So I think we somehow have to cut down to like only 2 of these options, maybe 3 of these options, and we go for that 11-11. Like I said, let's do that. Let's go for 12-11-11 for time's sake. I might still push us to 10. Push each friendly minion up to 1 hex. Choose a friendly fighter within 1 of 1 or more feature tokens. And so I think I like Curious Remnants more than Driven Lurch here, just because of the flexibility that it can be Zondara or Furlane. And we also have Well Trained. So I think we've got enough push tech. We don't need Driven Lurch. And we don't have enough things that are specifically looking for... Yeah, so like Fates Entwined, we might need to push these 2 next to each other. Okay. So a lot of our pushes are going to be for like supported attacks, it seems, and making sure just our fighters can get to where they need to. Play this after a friendly minion is taken out of action. Yeah, we want that as a way to quickly bring somebody back. I need to cut at least 2 more of these. So we can reroll his attack dice while she's alive. And his attack dice, her defense dice. That seems really good. Man, I don't know which ones to cut right now. Makes a move action or is taken out of action. Choose a friendly fighter. The chosen fighter makes a move action that must end adjacent to that enemy fighter or in the hex. Okay, so what does Salvage Intelligence say after Zondara's activation? I think as good as Maniac Pursuit is, it might be a card too many right now. Oh, after their move, though. The fact that we can meet them at their move is really good. No, I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to get rid of Curious Remnants. I think it helps too much. Maniac Pursuit does need to put us next to the enemy fighter. No, it's so good, especially with Salvage Intelligence. You actually have the freedom to play around the idea of always having Salvage Intelligence, because like it can be the first upgrade that you unearth for. So that's something you really want to keep in mind. Like Maniac Pursuit, you can, charge with for lane, and then Maniac Pursuit can let you bring him back into a position where all of a sudden he's salvaged and like getting mileage out of Salvage Intelligence over and over and over again. I think actually our push tech is going to be helping Salvage Intelligence more than anything. So we don't want to get rid of too much of our move tech or push tech, and that actually re-emphasizes the cut that we did on the zombie push there. So, this might have to go. Vicious Critters. I really like it, but it might be what is getting cut. Blind Devotion. Push another friendly fighter up to 2 hexes or up to 4 hexes if the fighter is for lane, so they're adjacent. It's very similar to Maniac Pursuit. It's like the same card. But this one gives them a move instead of a push. Choose a friendly. And this can be anybody. Super difficult. I wonder if we get rid of Bond Unbroken. I like it helping with her defense dice. Let's get rid of Bond Unbroken. The bond has been broken. Do we even have room for Cobbled Corpse? We might not have room for Cobbled Corpse. I think, as silly as that sounds, I might get rid of Cobbled Corpse. Now, this attack doesn't do anything unless I roll crits. But, man, if it does... No, I think we're going to leave that in there. Let's get rid of Cobbled Corpse. Oof, that's a weird one to get rid of. That might be a wrong answer. 12, 11, 11. Can I push myself to crank this down further? Not with the given time that we have, at the very least. All right, well, my mission for next week, at minimum, will be to see if I can't crank this down to 12, 10, and 10. Just over the course of testing. Wow. Okay. I did not expect to be so hard pressed for these slots, but here we are. I'm still happy with what we've built, and I think over time it'll become apparent, what is and isn't working. So this is kind of frankly, in the spirit of the show, this is perfect from like a test deck standpoint, because we have those 11th cards in the deck that we'll kind of learn as we play, whether or not we're happy to see them or not. It kind of kills me a little bit. Like I think it kind of kills me a lot a bit. Uh, let's, you know what? Let's get rid of Vicious Critters. And let's get rid of... There's got to be an adjacent enemy attack coming in. Let's get rid of Vicious Familiar. Now, I don't know if we have enough denizens, but we'll find out. Okay. Kind of killed me a lot of it. So what I'll do instead is those cards that were just super hard to cut, I'm actually going to sleeve them up. I'm going to put a sticky note on them that says draw one. I'm going to let my opponents know going into the game that I don't actually have those cards in my deck. I just want to think about them in the draw order that I would have seen them if I had included 11 and 11, right? So what will happen is I'll announce as I draw one of those, hey, drew it. I'll set it off to the side, forces me to think about it. I'll draw a different card in that slot. And then my opponent knows exactly what I'm up to. And that's a fun way to test cards that you're unsure about. But this was super hard. This was super fun. And I got a jet here soon. So let's think of how we're going to name this deck real quick, because that is always the final task. But I think... I think it might be like Tragedy Bound Gravebreakers, or something similar. Like I think we can use the bound to really work towards us here. So, or I mean, you could do Love Bound. Starcross Bound, Love Bound, Heartbound. It could be Heartbound. Heartbound Gravebreakers. Soulbound. Soulbound. The Soulbound Gravebreakers. Soulbound. Man, you could even just call the deck Soulbound Killers. You really could. Easily. We'll call it Soulbound Denizens, I think. I think that'll really get the pairing across. Or Soulbound. I like Soulbound Dreamers. We're going to do Soulbound Dreamers. The deck's name is Soulbound Dreamers. Yeah. I wanted to make sure Bound made it into the name, and it worked so well. Soulbound Dreamers. There we are. Well, I got to close this show out, but I appreciate you for joining me for the show, whether you watched it live or after the fact. I really appreciate it. And I hope you're enjoying the series, and I hope to see you next week. So to close this out, you'll be hearing, I hope to see you again here shortly. To close this out, next week will be week B. That'll be an experimental week. I had a viewer of the show reach out and ask me if they could do a Deck Doctor build. So very likely next week will be another Deck Doctor. We just did that last week. And if you want to catch the first attempt at that, it was with the Skinnerkin and the Rime-Locked Relics. So just look for What the Decks, Skinnerkin plus Rime-Locked Relics, and that one happens to be a Deck Doctor format. In the meantime, between when I see you next, I'll be giving this deck a test drive at my local meetup, and we'll report back on what did and didn't work at the top of the show in 2 weeks. You can see this deck and many more at the Battle Mallets Nemesis Library. You can best reach me in the comments below or on the Mortal Realms Discord. You can check out all the Mortal Realms Network has to offer, including a link to our Discord, at themortalrealms.com. Thank you again for watching. Hope to see you next week. I've been Skylar, and this has been What the Decks.